My name is Nikta, and this is how I found the truth. He was looking me straight in the eye, close to my eyes, and he was saying, just with so much hatred, "You think you are something because you're a Christian, but you're not. You're nothing." He pushed me to the ground and he kicked me on my face until I saw stars for the first time. I was born Muslim and I grew up in Tehran, Iran. And when I was 7 years old, I moved to America with my sister and my parents. We were told that we were going to go start a better life. I started school when I was in 2nd grade, and immediately me and my sister decided that we would rebel against my parents. And I believe part of that sort of stemmed from my household, which was very strict. A lot of times we felt like it wasn't safe in our house, with my parents having a lot of arguments. In 8th grade, my sister invited her friends over to our house to drink, and it was my first time having a sip of alcohol. And we all sat in a circle and were drinking, and before I knew it, I was drunk and I didn't know it, and my best friend was there. And my best friend came up to me and she told me, "Hey, one of your sister's friends pulled me aside and she touched me somewhere inappropriate." And at that point, I was too drunk to understand kind of where she was coming from. And then before I know it, that friend came to our bedroom. She locked my bedroom door on me, turned off the lights. Ever since that day, I believe there was a big wound created in my heart, so I started drinking away the pain. I was starting to get aggressive and more rebellious. My mom would tell me that you should pray to Allah and you should pray for His peace and for Him, and I would even try that too. But as the years were going by and the longer I was living that lifestyle, I started to get more and more unhappy, and it kind of led me to a chain of relationships I was having, trying to get my fulfillment and love from relationships. And finally, I decided to cut that off of my life because I was just going deeper into a hole. There was so much torment going on with me, with everything I was involved with, that I had developed a really bad form of social anxiety where I couldn't be in public and I couldn't go out into stores because I just felt like so self-conscious and my self-worth was like a -20. I remember my mom had told me that I could go on anti-anxiety medication, and I had a bottle just waiting in the room, and I told myself, since I'm not taking those every day, I have a whole bottle and I might as well just take it all one day. I had such a low self-esteem that I just thought that I was nothing and everybody else was something, and they had found their way to function throughout life, but I just haven't found mine. I remember I would cut myself to try to feel some sort of pain. I was trying to dull the pain by cutting, and it was hurting, but it wasn't doing anything. And I guess nobody around me knew the truth either, so I was just like everybody else. We're all lost. My mom had sent me and my sister on a trip to Iran to go and see my family, and she told me, maybe if you go see your family, maybe if you go travel, you'll feel better. So I ended up going on the trip, and I was miserable and I was crying, and my cousins knew it, and they tried to help me and they tried to console me, but they didn't know any better. So they just kind of told me that you just kind of have to live with it. Life is pretty hard. And I remember I was in my aunt's bedroom and I had shut all the blinds, and I was laying there just thinking about how I wanted to die so bad, knowing that nothing was answering me, no one was hearing my pain, and nobody knew how hard it was. And I just was crying out like I did every day, but this time when I closed my eyes, I saw a vision of Jesus, and He was standing and He was looking at me. And He was in a church, an old wooden church, and He was standing in front of stained glass windows. And He communicated to me, "Follow me." And I opened my eyes, and And a few seconds later, my mind caught up to me and I realized I just saw something. I just saw Jesus. And immediately, it was like God was speaking to me through the worship and through seeing people's hands raised and surrender to God and seeing their happiness. And I was a weeping mess for weeks and months. One day I was in my car and the Lord brought a memory back in my mind, which I had suppressed, and it was that memory of being in 8th grade. And the Lord spoke to me, you know what happened that day, right? And I said, no. And he said, you got molested. And that I felt like a brick fall on me and all my emotions just released. And I realized I had suppressed that memory and it was holding me back from experiencing love, and it was holding me back in so many ways. I remember this was a redemption process, and he was giving me dreams where my identity was completely different. And even though I felt that pain, the Lord had renewed me so much that I was completely confident. And that dream it was a lifeline for me, so I didn't get stuck in all the pain and anguish, but I realized that God wanted to heal me and restore me. That doesn't matter what anybody does to me, that I'm a child of God, that I'm who he says I am. And since then, it's just been things broken off of my life, like the sexual abuse trauma and the anxiety broken off and the fear of people broken off. And I broke agreement with witchcraft and all of that stuff, and I threw everything away. And I know that Jesus is king. And I know that. And now, just looking back, I can see that the Lord never made me to be scared of people, and I love people intensely. I just know that my identity now is not who I was, and I'm meant to be around people. I love people, and I can see his original plan for my life. I remember after I got baptized, I was living by myself and my parents were at home, and little did I know that they mailed my baptism certificate to my parents' house. And I remember going home and my dad, he was very stern with me. He asked me, what is this? And I told him I got baptized, and he said, why did you need to do that? Why did you do that? And I said, because I'm making my declaration that Jesus Christ is my Lord. And he was so upset with me, and he said, this is the worst thing you could have done to our family. Now this is too much Jesus. I thought you were incorporating him, not making him your Lord. So I think ever since that day, he started to get more and more angry with me. And I remember I was really shaken, but I just went upstairs and I just started praying for him. Another day after that, my mom had invited me over, and she basically sat me down and told me that because I'm a Christian, that she can't really support me as her daughter anymore, and she doesn't want to be involved because I'm not the daughter that she once knew. So I remember just feeling so brokenhearted, and I was driving off from that encounter just weeping in my car. I showed up to my boyfriend's house, and he just came outside and we sat on top of the hood of my car, and I was just weeping, and he was holding me. He said, it's okay, and we can expect this kind of stuff. And I told him, can you just come with me, because I gotta go home to see my dad, but I'm really scared because he's been calling my phone. And I was just remembering, the Lord put it in my remembrance, a testimony I heard about a Muslim woman who, when her dad found out about all this, he paid somebody to behead her. And that testimony was just in my head for some reason. He said, actually, let me call you and you can mute me, so I'll hear everything that's happening and I'll be right outside for you. And so I went inside, and immediately my dad was so upset. He goes, why didn't you answer your phone? What's going on? He threw my phone across the room. And then it was just me and him in the house, so there was no one witnessing or protecting me in that moment. And I remember he was looking me straight in the eye, close to my eyes, and he was saying, just with so much hatred, he was saying that I need to stop what I'm doing or he's gonna kill my boyfriend. And I told him, no, you can't do that. And I was trying to plead with him, and I was trying to scream and tell him all these things, but he was saying, no, you think you are something because you're a Christian, but you're not, you're nothing. And he pushed me to the ground, and he kicked me on my face until I saw stars for the first time. And for some reason, my dad grabbed the telephone and he started dialing something. And then he got confused, and then he went upstairs. And at that moment, I realized this might be my chance to go, and I ran outside, and I went from the backyard to the front yard, and I told my boyfriend who was standing outside, get in the car, please, like right now. And as soon as I get in the car, my dad is right there, standing right by the window, and he had run out somehow, and he knew, and I said, drive. So he drove, which was crazy because we were just a couple blocks away to his house. And I remember I called the cops, and I said, my dad, he hit me, and my dad, and all this. And my boyfriend's parents, they were just trying to calm me down, and they had set up a room for me to stay there. And while I was there, I remember the day after that incident, when I was still hurting so bad, the Lord spoke to me, and he said, you need to forgive your dad because I make the sun shine on the righteous and the unrighteous. And so I went into my Bible, and I found that verse, and I go, oh no, he's asking me to forgive, and it's been one day, and it hurts so bad. And I went, but God, why? It hurts so bad. Like, don't I get some time to grieve and feel sorry for myself? But I felt like he was saying to forgive him instantly. And so I did, and I took the time to forgive him, even though my flesh wanted me to be so angry with him and protective. And the amazing part was, after that, after a time of not being able to speak to them, my mom was so persistent in trying to reach me, which was hard because I don't want them to hurt me, but I wanted to be in touch with them. When I was told that it's okay to let them go, but it wasn't what I wanted, I still wanted a relationship with them. And so we agreed to meet with them at the mall, just in public. And slowly but surely, I would see my dad at first going through a grieving time where I knew he felt so much remorse for what he had done because he looked like he was just in a state of darkness. But I think God used that to break him in a way so that his light could come through. And then I'm not sure exactly how much time after that I could invite my dad to church and worship God freely next to him. And he hasn't been rejecting the gospel. I believe that God's speaking to him. He just hasn't accepted him as Lord and Savior yet. But I know that my dad's not the same angry person. And I know that God used that situation to bring about something in my dad. So that is worth it. That was so worth it. And I believe that my dad, he's gonna come to know the truth. If you're a Muslim and you're watching this, just know that Jesus loves you. He's real, and he's the God of the Bible. And this God, he has good plans for you. And even if you've been hurt in so many ways and you've tried reaching out to so many things, just know that Jesus, he sees you. He's been with you. He actually created you. So he's created your destiny, and he knows everything that's in store for you. All he wants is for you to give your heart to him, and he can take your heart and your little life and make it so much more impactful than you ever thought. And he can give you a brand new heart, brand new eyes, and a brand new mind. My name is Nikta, and this is how I found the truth.